Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Practice Growth Strategies podcast. This is the podcast that will help you grow your practice. And I have another very special guest for us that's going to help us to grow our practice here. Dr. Nick Silveri. He has become a good friend of mine, and we met at some of Dr. Stephen Franson's seminars, and who I've had on the podcast before, actually. And I know you're going to love some of the value bombs that Nick has for us, because I got to talk to him on the phone, I think it was last week, and got to talk about my practice and growing it. So I'm super excited for him to share some things with you. And then Nick, if you'll go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you told me your story. You've had experience building practices, a successful, very successful practice, and tell us about what you do and why you do it.
Great. I appreciate you having me on, Tabor, and I'm excited to share some value with your audience. So yeah, I am a chiropractor. I started my first, or I bought my first practice 12 years ago. It was an existing practice in a small town, about 4,000 people. Grew that to a reasonable size, but I knew that the city that I actually lived in, which was a lot bigger, about 100,000 people, was a better opportunity. So I ended up starting from scratch my second office a year later. Little did I realize that I was not as smart as I thought I was, and the existing practice that was in a town with no competition was a lot easier to build than a practice in a super competitive market, zero patients. So I ended up actually having a heart attack at 30 from stress. Like, wow. No problems with my heart. It was all just due to stress-related stuff going on with the practice. So that was kind of a wake-up call for me, and I realized that if I was going to be in business, I needed to run it like a business. So I started a journey to kind of figure out how was it that I could leverage, the things that I was good at, find other people that were good at their things, and kind of put that together into a vision. And so I started I got my first associate. I was only seeing maybe 40 people a week when I got my first associate. I was just that committed to. I knew that if I could focus on the business building side of things and let somebody else treat the patients, that we would both prosper. So got my first associate 3 years after I was in practice, replaced myself in practice 2 years later. And we actually every time I've taken myself more out of my practice, we've actually grown more. So I'm not sure what me as a doctor or person, but so in 4 years after I took myself out of practice, we tripled the size of the practice. And I sold my first practice that was in the small town. And so I was able to focus in just on my one single practice. Well, after I had stopped seeing patients, I still was like a lot of chiropractors that I'm friends with, or that I run into, or that I talk to, where I had lots of ideas, but I still wasn't implementing. Even though that I had more freedom of time, I still was not implementing, just because I'm more of a vision guy, an idea guy, and I didn't have an implementer. So I hired my first marketing director in 2015. And as soon as I hired her, it was just like a light switch went off. It's like things started happening. The things that I had in my head started to become reality. And they were becoming better than what I had even imagined, because she was able to put her, kind of spin on things. And it was just a really good partnership. And what I decided was I saw a gap in the chiropractic market where there just weren't very many done-for-you services when it came to marketing. And that's really like where my specialty lies, is in growing a practice and marketing a practice. So I started Leverage Media, which we started last January. We only serve chiropractors. And what we do is we try to basically become almost like a full-service marketing agency for the chiropractors. Our little tagline is that every chiropractor needs a marketing department. It just doesn't need to be you. I kind of got stuck in that cycle of like, I felt like I had to do everything. I had to know everything. And just a bunch of stuff ended up not getting done, or kind of getting done, half-assed. And so I really focused in on, getting things implemented. And I realized that that's what a lot of chiropractors are lacking in their practice. And so that's what we've been doing the last year and a half. I still have my practice. It's $1 million a year practice. I live in Chicago. My practice is 3 hours south of where I live. So I'm in my practice at most 4 days a month. When I'm traveling like I was this last month, I was in there maybe like 2 days for the month. But the reason why it's able to run is A, because I've got a great team in place, but B, it's because we have systems that bring in qualified new patients on a consistent basis without me having to have my personality and my stamp on the practice.
Yeah, man, that's huge. What you just said there. A lot of myself included, a lot of us have personality-driven practices, and that always makes it tough to get yourself out and focus on the big picture when you're so in there being that person. I was looking at your website, and of course, you have a great website, by the way. So that's good. You're doing what you teach, right? And I noticed, there's a lot of things that you guys do: lead generation, social media, Facebook, video production, retargeting campaigns, which is huge for chiropractors that most of them are not utilizing those things. And I want to jump into those things and how you help chiropractors implement that. But before we do, one thing I always like to do on our podcast is give the listener an action item, something that they can take and use themselves this week to help move their practice forward and to help grow their practice. So any advice that you would give a chiropractor looking to get their name out there more and get new patients?
Yeah, so I'll give you two. They're kind of the same thing, but one's a little bit broader than the other. The broad thing that I would say that people should start tomorrow is start to create content. Like, start to tell your story. So I grew my practice on spinal screening because I was good at talking one-on-one with people, knee to knee. Mm-hmm. I found that with social media and with content, I was able to get that same impact, but to thousands of people for, kind of pennies on the dollar, what you normally would pay for advertising. So my broad directive would be to start creating content. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just tackle topics that you talk about every single day in the practice and put them out into your community. But if you were to do one thing, I would say to figure out how you could tell your story, whether you have an amazing chiropractic story or whether you've got a great story of just your practice. Like, when I went to chiropractic school, I'd never been adjusted before. So that's not exactly a tearjerker of a story when you tell them how you became a chiropractor. Right. Like, I just ran into some random guy that wore white tennis shoes with dress pants, and he said, "Hey, why don't you be a chiropractor?" And so I did. So that's my story. That's not really like an amazing one, but my office story is great. Like, when I tell like how much we've helped this person or that person, or yes, that's where I think that if you did one thing on next week or tomorrow is just tell whatever your story is in about a 3-minute video and put it out there. Just put a radius around your practice of 10 miles. And if you're in a city, maybe just 3 miles, and just spend $1 a day and just get it out there. Let people start seeing it, and you'll be surprised at the reactions you start to get.
That's good. That's great advice. Yes, I highly, highly recommend the listeners do that and blast it everywhere and use it, and even send it to patients to watch before their exam or before their report of findings or something. Because I think if they can get to know you, you build that connection and you'll grow your practice like crazy that way, right? Okay, so let's jump into what it is your corporation does for the chiropractor. I know there are a lot of people who are like, they're waiting for this part of the podcast because they want to know how you can help them. What do you guys do?
So the strategy that we use for our clients is we basically take exactly what I do in my practice for my digital marketing strategy, and we do it for our clients. So I don't try to teach you how to be a better marketer. I don't try to explain to you how Facebook Ads Manager works or why you should be on Instagram. I just do the things for you. What I found with chiropractors is even if I told every chiropractor exactly what I did and walked them through it, 10% would probably do something with it. And even that 10% probably wouldn't continue to do it consistently. So we focus on two things. We focus on content and we focus on lead generation. So the content, I kind of call myself the Mary Poppins of chiropractic digital marketing, because the content is the medicine and the lead generation is the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. So everybody that hires a marketing company, they want to get an ROI, they want to 10x their money, whatever it is, and they want to do it right away. So we have the lead generation, which is Google AdWords and Facebook ads, so that we make sure that we're bringing in more money than people are spending, because that's number one priority when it comes to marketing.
Right.
The second, though, is more of a long-term strategy. So we make sure that we are making it super simple for people to create content on a very consistent basis. So every month they create 9 videos and 1 blog. All they do is they send us the raw video, they send us the Word doc. We take care of everything from there. We do all the video editing, we do all the scheduling, we do all the strategy, all the retargeting, all the automation, all the funnel building. Every single thing that you need for a digital marketing campaign, we do for you, except for create the content. We just need you to tell your story, and we then help share it with your community. And our goal is to make you the local celebrity when it comes to natural healthcare. Like, we don't have to be, we don't all have to be Dr. Mercola or Dr. Axe. We just need to be the guy that everybody within 3 to 5 miles of our practice knows their face, knows their name, so that when they decide that it's time for them to see a chiropractor, you're top of mind. You're the person that they think of because they see you all the time, everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, man, that's huge. I think we're just not taught this stuff in school. To me or to you, maybe this is, or even to some people listening, maybe this is common sense to get your name out there, but we're not taught this. And most chiropractors never know this, or they wait 5-10 years into practice before they realize the key is people just need to know about you. The key is that it's obscurity is the problem. Like, it's not that there's not people around you that need you. It's that they just don't even know who you are. Right.
Right. Anytime I talk to a chiropractor, I tell them, if I called up 1,000 people in your town, I bet you a very small percentage could tell me who you are or what you do.
Yeah.
And even if they knew you were a chiropractor and I asked them what it is that you specialized in, 0% would probably be able to tell you or tell me what you do. So right. Just getting your message out there, letting your community know that you exist and what you do. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you see it with patients that refer in other patients. Low back refers in low back. Headaches refer in headaches. Digestive issues refer in digestive issues. Yeah. Imagine if all of your patients were educated on everything that you did, and when they saw things in their life or in their circle of influence, they were able to send those people in. But unless you don't have time to tell every single person that comes into your office everything you do. Yep. That's why social media and that's why content is so important, is because you can speak one to many instead of one to one.
Right. And I know that chiropractor right now is listening going, that's me exactly. I want to do all that stuff. I do not have time. So how could they get a hold of you? How could they talk with you, or learn more about how they can get involved?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm just going to grab my phone because I forgot what the phone number is. So you would just text in you text in GROW, GROW, and let me find the number to text in. And that number is 312-626-0702. So text in GROW, all lowercase, to 312-626-0702. And so what that does, when you text that in, it will opt you in if you'd like to do a strategy session with me. So what I do with any chiropractor is I will, as long as you own a practice, we need to have you be a practice owner. But you would text that in, fill out a short application that just gives me some basic information about your office, what you're doing with digital media or digital marketing, and kind of what's your website address, Facebook, all that. And then once I've got that, what I do is I do about 30 to 60 minutes worth of research on your individual practice. So what is it that you're doing well? What are you missing an opportunity on? What are your competitors doing? What's your market like? What does your demographics look like? And then when we get on the phone for the strategy session, it's usually about an hour long. For the first 45 minutes, I basically say, if this was my practice, here's what I would do to improve it. And then the last 15 minutes, I tell you about what Leverage Media does and how we could help you. And usually I would say that 95% of the people I talk to just say, yeah, let's just have you do it. Because it's a lot. Like whenever I tell you what it is you need to fix, it's usually a lot, because I would say 95% of chiropractors that I talk to are either doing nothing or doing a little bit poorly. So whenever I give them advice, it's usually a lot to soak in. But when I say to them, listen, like, you only have to spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours per month, getting us what we need if you work with us. And then we do all this stuff for you without you having to worry about it at all, without you having to learn anything new, without you having to hire, some 22-year-old that, you then have to manage. So we just try to make it as easy as possible, because I remember what it was like when I was practicing, that if you asked me to do one more thing, it was going to be, I just didn't have the bandwidth. So we try to make things not only easy for the doctors to create the content, but once the content is created, everything else is done for them, strategy, all of it. So
I love that, Dr. Nick, and that's very generous of you. I appreciate it. I love the fact that you make it even easy for people to opt in for that session, because they're probably listening to us right now on their phone or watching the video on their phone, and you can literally just text GROW, that's 4 letters, GROW, text it to 312-626-0702, and I will have that number on the video here when we edit it, as well as in the show notes if you're listening from the podcast. So that's going to be a wrap for us. I think drop some bombs. We have some action items, and we know what to do next to schedule a strategy session with Dr. Nick. Thanks so much for taking your time being here with us on the show today. And any parting remarks you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me on, but really it's, if all the chiropractors in the world got out there and started sharing their message and sharing what it is that their practice did, we wouldn't be at 8 or 10% utilization rate. We'd be at 80, 90%, because our message is what people want to hear. Social media is where they're at. You just got to you have to have a system in place to get that message out there. And that's where we try to help out.
Amen to that. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for being on the show, and we will talk to you on the next one.
All right. Sounds good.